Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report News Hour for the 16th year of Chungi, for the 8th month and 17th day by the heavenly calendar. I just realized it's a bit strange to call this the News Hour on Wednesday. I guess it's just the King's Report on Wednesday because we don't really do the news of the day. Well, I guess, we're doing news sort of. It's a news about Father's teachings. And for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing Father's God's Day message for 1997. And this was January 1st, 1997. This was before he began celebrating God's Day by the heavenly calendar. So before we go into where we left off yesterday, or left off last week, just want to make sure that everybody saw this, that if there's anyone new, that they're make sure that they see this. This is really important, and it deserves to be reviewed before we go into the content that we're scheduled to look at today. We saw this last time, but let's do it again, okay? Because this is super, super, super important. If the Allied nations had united with me after World War II, Mother and the true children, Mother here is Hak Ja Han, and the true children would not exist today. Okay, that's a pretty strong statement. Hak Ja Han and true children would not exist today. Of course, Hak Ja Han would exist, but she would not exist as true mother, is what he's saying in 1997. They are sons and daughters who were not supposed to be, because Father he's about to say that he would have been having children with uh, a woman or women other than Hakchan. If Korea had unified centering on Christian culture without any persecution, the Moon clan and the Che clan would have been the center, establishing the position of parents starting from sons and daughters. A peaceful world centered on one true family and one blood lineage would have been realized. However, I lost every foundation because of Christianity's failure. Now, um, the Che family that he's referring to here, in my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, but in my understanding, this is the Che family that uh, became one of the sort of the chaebols in Korea, or at least the daughters or granddaughters, or anyways, this is has to do with the actually it's the Shindonga group, and uh, a number of people who are critics of the Unification Church in Korea have tried to tie the Shindonga group to the Unification Church, and they've always denied it. And it seems that the patriarch of the Chaebol may not have been associated, or appears not to have been associated with the Unification Church, but some of the daughters, or some of the female members of that clan were in fact associated with Father. It seems. I'm not too clear about the details on this, but anyway, it's interesting here that in 1997, Father states clearly that the Moon clan and the Che clan would have been the center. Moon clan and the Che clan would have been the center, establishing the position of parents starting from sons and daughters. And of course, you know, specifically here, of course, he's referring to Choi Son-gil, the woman he married um, uh, before the end of the war, before 1945, while he was still in North Korea. Che clan would have been the center, establishing the position of parents starting from sons and daughters. But of course, if Choi Son-gil was not able to stay with father, uh, she and some male family members pressured father very strongly for divorce, and she herself did everything she could to disrupt father's work. Uh, and True Mother talks about that in the in her autobiography that was published in Korean. I don't believe it's been published in English yet, but I encourage you to take a look at that. Anyway, Choi Son-gil and the Che clan would have been the center, establishing the position of parents from sons and daughters. A peaceful world centered on one true family and one blood lineage would have been realized. However, I lost every foundation because of Christianity's failure. Everybody came to Satan's side. I was alone. I went through sorrow and suffering, not just because the family of Adam and Eve was lost, but because I lost the whole foundation that had been prepared from before the creation. The sorrow and suffering could not be recovered by wailing. All right, so, and then he goes on to say that the blessings like those that are taking place now should have happened in the 1950s. Of course, we know that in reality, Father was not able to start the blessing tradition until 1960. But he's saying that already the decade before that, blessings should have been taking place. All right, so that is just a incredibly important passage there. So I wanted to emphasize that today. Before we go to the part where we left off, yes, the last time, let's go to, here we go, 3.6 million couples blessing. Of course, this is the RFK Stadium blessing, is what how many of us know it. It was in November of 1997, so about 10 months or 11 months after, close to 11 months after Father gave this speech. Equalization begins with the unification of God and true parents and the unification between true parents and you. So equalization, I'm not sure which word is being translated here from Korean. Father often talked about something called Pyeongjunhwa, And that's rather than equalization, it's more like leveling out. Um, Pyong means flat, and chun means standard, and hua means become. So more like, in today's world, there are some areas of the world that have a great deal more access to resources than other areas of the world, and also within countries. Some people have a great deal more access to technology, for example, than other people, this kind of thing. And Father was all for equal opportunity, not equal results, but equal opportunity. And so maybe this is what this is referring to here. Equalization is a word and does not appear very often in the English translations of his words. That's why I'm thinking maybe here leveling out or standardization or um, something like that, or maybe leveling out of well, access to resources, what it means, um, but he used the word Pyeongjunhwa quite a bit, and I suspect that that's the word being translated here, but not translated very well, I'm afraid. Begins with the unification of God and true parents, and the unification between true parents and you. This occurred at the moment of change from 1996 to 1997. Even a few minutes before the end of last year, I had removed indemnity because all indemnity was removed from the restoration of indemnity. From now on, you need to be proud of true parents rather than just a true father. If you are doing more than being proud of and loving God, it will be nothing to accomplish the 3.6 million couples blessing. So people in Family Federation will lock on to this and say, see, yeah, he's saying that you have to be proud of true mother as well. Well, true parents, okay? And so Hak Jahan is a part of that true parent team, shall we say, or that true parent pair, only as long as she is in a relationship with true father. And when she broke that relationship, which she did, when she broke that relationship, and we have Father's word on the fact that she broke that relationship, right, in July of 2012 at the kickoff rally of the Women's UN. Father said, he said, yeah, I have no wife, and that the God of night and God of night, God of day are still fighting. So um, so there was no unity at that point, and Father, and also of course he was pointing that out then, but also Hak Jahan made it quite clear in February 2013, and in subsequent years, she's made it quite clear that she's only using Father's image and name in order to advance her own interests. Uh, um, anyway, I think that's clear. So be proud of true parents. And today, of course, we are proud of true parents. And the woman who is in the true mother position, of course, is our eternal true mother, Hyun Shil Kang. If you're doing more than being proud of and loving God, it will be nothing to accomplish the 3.6 million couples blessing. Therefore, our motto is let us be proud of true parents and love true parents by accomplishing the 3.6 million couples blessing. And it was accomplished, of course, uh, in the summer, and that is where we get the 7/8 ceremony. With the 3.6 million couples blessing, you will welcome the new realm of liberation. For all blessed couples, blessed families, including the 3.6 million couples, start to talk about the blessing, there will be nobody who does not know of the blessing. Who made the wall of persecution? It is the swindlers of the press and political circles. Swindlers, okay, sagikundur. Fraudsters, I think, might be a more accurate translation here, but okay, this translator is trying to be polite, I guess. Fraudsters, I think, is probably sagikundur. I'm pretty sure is what Father would say here in Korean. I established a newspaper of righteousness, referring to, might want to put this in plural because he, of course, established a number of newspapers, not just the Washington Times, but also the Noticias del Mundo, the News World, later changed its name to Herald Tribune, I guess. and also the Sekai Nippo in Japan, Seikeibo in Korea was also going at this time. So I established a newspapers of righteousness. Let's put that into plural. However, the press calls the Washington Times a conservative newspaper without my permission. Such propaganda makes the Washington Post the liberal paper. A liberal paper like the New York Times is attempting some reforms because of the Washington Times. So interesting that Father did not like the idea that Washington Times is being called a conservative newspaper. Of course, conservative is also always a relative thing. So, uh, Washington Times placed next to the Washington Post is going to be a relatively conservative paper. But I think Father certainly was not happy with the idea that Washington Times only represented one side of the political spectrum. I think he wanted a more sort of, well, what we call headwing type of approach. A newspaper should stress family protection and oppose prostitution. This should be the main direction. They should oppose whatever prevents people from fulfilling their purpose. I will respond in opposition to it strongly, no matter what kind of thing it is. Okay. Interesting that newspapers should stress family. Of course, Washington Times for a while, their motto was a faith, family, and freedom. Faith, family, and freedom. And so, and also they had a family section, a whole, I think it was a weekly section, if I'm not mistaken, um, that was published there, and it did do that. But as I've been talking about in the news, when I cover the news, really many of the problems, if not most, perhaps even close to all of the problems that we face today in society, originate with the family, the breakdown of the family. And so, therefore, the solution also lies with the rebuilding the family. Of course, when I say family, I'm referring to heterosexual two-parent families, and also families that sort of extended families of three generations. Um, that's, I think, really critical. I've spoken before how in Korea I'm a member of a large clan. Now, only my wife in that clan is blessed, or also is following Father. But I very much see the advantage of being a part of an extended family like that, where we have, what is it, one, two, three, four sisters and one brother. So that's a pretty big family. Uh, anyway, so I will oppose it. I will respond in opposition to it strongly, no matter what kind of thing it is. Not really sure what that sentence is referring to. Opposition to, or respond in opposition to it. Don't know really what it means. Okay, oppose whatever prevents people from fulfilling their purpose. Okay. Each of you should reach out to 33 people who can lead at least 10 others. In other words, 33 people should lead 330. 330 people should lead 3,300. 3,300 people should lead 33,000, etc. If this continues 7 times, the total will be 33 million, and everything will be completed. Everybody has relationships with at least 10 people, including friends, parents, brothers, and sisters. Therefore, if we can connect people in series, the world will be restored automatically. If the national messiahs in 185 nations bless 185 couples, the Japanese women should bring 150 couples, and other countries 120 couples. If this blessing is carried out through 2 generations, it will reach 480 million couples. Then the restoration of the world will be finished. If 3.6 million couples are blessed this year, the 36 million couples blessing will be accomplished easily. Our future goal will be 360 million couples. If such a goal is fulfilled, the blessing ceremony should be held all over the world. Then the heavenly nation will be established and people will be interested in the national registry. Okay. So Father, of course, sent out missionaries in 1975, and that was before Koreans were able to travel internationally. Korea in 1975 was under a military authoritarian regime. that did not allow, I would say, 99% of Koreans to leave the country. Had to be had to have a pretty special reason or a pretty special position to leave the country. Um, some people did. For example, they sent construction workers to the Middle East, for example. They sent nurses to Germany during the 1960s and so forth. But most people, if they didn't have a reason, you could not go just for tourism, for example, or to be a national messiah. And so fathers sent people from the U.S., Germany, and Japan, U.S. or Europe, I guess, and Japan. And these people sort of were supposed to set the foundation in those countries, and some people are still there, and some people have taken on the role of a national messiah in that place because then when the national messiah providence came along, it was Korea, Japan, and U.S. plus Europe. Um, now, I want to emphasize that we are told that Hak Ja Han has sort of canceled the national messiah appointments after Father's cosmic soma. If that is the case, then that is invalid. That cancellation is not recognized by Father. It is not recognized by God. So anyone who was appointed as national messiah by Father is still in that position, unless the person has followed Hak Ja Han and taken the poison wine from Hak Ja Han. And also, a person, these appointments were supposed to go 3 generations. So if your parents were appointed to be um, national messiahs, and then you may also be a national messiah. Have to look at each individual situation separately, but it's quite possible that you are also a national messiah in that country. And appointments like these are not something that we can sort of resign from. You know, um, when God gets a hold of you, good luck. Because you can run, you can hide, but what is it? You can hide, or you can run. I guess you can run, but you cannot hide. um, yes, many of us have experienced that. Okay, I've tried it. Doesn't work. Okay. Today, because national messiahs were especially invited to attend this meeting, I am emphasizing 33 people. Hold lectures centering on them for other important figures and connect them to our organizations. The Women's Federation for World Peace has to work centering on the Youth Federation for World Peace, which is the Cain type association, and the Student Federation for World Peace, which is the Able type association. If women and young people join the Family Federation for World Peace, the men will automatically follow their wives and children because they are in the position of archangel. Western countries will follow this formula. So Father had a formula for restoring the world, and unfortunately, this was not carried out. There was really no serious follow through on this, unfortunately. If a national workshop is accomplished, the nation will be restored completely to God's side. As the 3.6 million couples blessing approaches, world leaders will begin paying attention to me and want to meet me. The motto of our exhibition is the equalization of technology. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I said. It says definitely it says Pyeongjunhwa. So it means a leveling out of access to technology. And most countries have a deep interest in inheriting technology. If a national workshop is held centering on the cabinet members, the nation will be restored. After True Parents' birthday this March, okay, 1997 was his. Okay, well, let's let it pass. That seems like it's awfully late, but yeah, maybe so. We will focus on seeing which country in Latin America will be the first to hold such a workshop. Okay, maybe he means that True Parents' birthday is not necessarily in March, but that after True Parents' birthday, comma, in March, comma, maybe that's his meaning here. So we're going to do this in March, which is after True Parents' birthday. The National Messiah groups have to accomplish this. Do you understand? Those who are confident that they can fulfill that mission, raise your hands and say, Manse, Manse, God, may God bless each of you. All right. Father in January 1997 put out a pretty strong vision. This was, of course, 15 years, a little more than 15 years before his cosmic soma. Um, and so, what are we to do with this today? I think we are right now rebuilding the foundation that Father built, and he sort of built a template. It's like you built a building. Let's say we built a temple, and someone came along and just demolished the temple. So we're trying to, when the king is trying to rebuild that temple, but more or less, or with the same blueprint, because Father built it, right? So it's that blueprint that we want to follow. And so I think all these organizations, associations, I believe, will come into existence at some point in the future. So who's going to bring them into existence? You say, oh well, let's wait for the king. No, 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 no. That time has passed. Okay, Father has already done it. So um, uh, it's up to us. It's up to the Blessed Central families who are in True Father's authority, centering on the three generation kingships that are responsible for doing these things, whether it's Oceanic Providence, whether it's the Youth Federation for World Peace, whether it's the Women's Federation for World Peace, whether it's um, all this other stuff, So um, the king has not given any direction. This is my opinion, but go ahead and start the Women's Federation for World Peace and see what the king says. My understanding is he'll say, okay, well, that's your freedom and responsibility. Of course, you have to, freedom requires what? Result. So to say that this is your freedom and responsibility means that it's up to you to produce result from that and to rebuild the Women's Federation for World Peace that was hijacked after True Father's Cosmic Soma. And so what Father instructed to build, those things are still out there. The word is still out there. And in one way or another, we need to accomplish that. Of course, we need to, just like when the king began his ministry, all right, he said, okay, we're gonna continue Father's ministry, but we can't use the same name because, well, it'd be nice if we could, but we can't for legal reasons and so forth. So let's think of a good name. And then he took a name from where? From Father's words. From Father's words, all right? World Peace and Unification Sanctuary, that comes from the calligraphy that Father wrote for the Cheonbokgung, the large church in Yongsan, Korea. The first day that this church was dedicated, when Father visited, he walked in and he took a brush and sumi, the charcoal, and he wrote Sege Pyongwa Tongil Samjan. And so the king decided to use that. And we translated it into English as World Peace and Unification Sanctuary. Okay. So similarly, if you want to start, say, a women's organization, maybe you may not be able to call it Women's Federation for World Peace, but you can I would recommend that you find something in Father's words and always sort of connect everything to Father. And I think it'll be a good thing then to accomplish if you are able to of course, you have to gather together Blessed Central families who are in Father's authority and who are centered on the three generation kingships. So it's not our mission to sit around waiting for the third king, second king, or third king to do stuff. All right, the Father has already shown us what needs to be done, and the king is following Father's instruction for him. And of course, we need to support that from the side, but from the we'll support that from the side, and we can start these things already. The professor or the what is it? The clergy. What's it called? Anyway, a clergy's association has been already been created, and that is going on now, and other organizations can be created as well. So let's think of what we can do. Let's pray about what we can do in order to uh, in order to build the kingdom that Father designed and gave us the design for, so that we can have a world of peace as quickly as possible. Right, Father's, God's kingdom can come as quickly as possible. Okay. Just please don't, you know, start going off in strange directions. Um, uh, Sometimes people send me stuff. Oh, I've got this new sort of a theological text, and please look at it and show it to the king, or or show it to the third king, or whatever. And I don't. King is not interested in those kinds of things. Uh, he is following True Father's strategy and direction, and it's probably and definitely not our job to instruct the king on the theology that he should be adopting. So please don't go off in strange directions. That's what I have to say. But I think, though, that people who do that, I suspect they will eventually come back. And um, they will. It may take 20 or 30 years, but they will come back, because let's face it, Father is the only game that's going to succeed. His teachings are the only game that are going to succeed, and eventually the whole world will realize this. Some more quickly than others, um, and but eventually everyone is going to see this. Right? It's just that in the process, there may be a lot of tears. No, there will be a lot of tears. Let's say that's probably the reality that we are living in. Okay. No. Right now, there seems to be a pretty good chance that there is going to be war, and that would be very unfortunate if that happens. All right, let's see here. Let's see, I had another one that I started but didn't finish, didn't I? That was the Day of Victory of Love. Hmm. I could restart that, except I don't know how far we got on that. I'd have to look that up. Okay. All right, so we have about a half hour left here. Let me just fill the rest of the time now then with some news headlines. One thing that I'm noticing this morning is that the financial sector that we covered yesterday is continuing to make interesting moves. Gold is now uh, settling above $4,000 a troy ounce. And the dollar also continues to become stronger. It is now 98.83 and approaching 99. Uh, and people around me are asking, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Oil is also rising. Um, and so commodities are rising. And it looks like it's, I think, I don't know what this, in, the stock market is also rising a bit. Okay. And cryptocurrencies are also rising today. And people are asking, well, why is this? Well, this is, people have different explanations, but in my mind, this is because the global money supply is going to be increasing, or at least people expect it to be increasing. They're expecting that because um, the U.S. Federal Reserve Board has already cut the most important interest rate, the Fed funds rate, by a quarter percentage point already, and they're signaling that they're going to do some more cuts. And Jerome Powell's term ends in May of next year, I believe, anyway, sometime early next year, first half of next year. And it's pretty well, known that President Trump is going to nominate someone who is going to be cutting rates much more aggressively than Jerome Powell. And when rates are lowered, that means that um, banks can lend at better rates. The interest rate basically is the cost of money, it's the price of capital, the cost of capital, you can say. And we know that governments are not supposed to be uh, price fixing, but they do fix the price of capital, or kind of, not all of them, on the short term, or in the short term rates anyway. And so that's one reason. And then the other reason, of course, is that especially last weekend, the Japanese governing party elected a new president who will probably become prime minister in about a week, who believes in um, uh, loosening the money supply. She is well known to be an advocate of making it easier for businesses to borrow money so that they can invest more and create more jobs and make more profits. And therefore, hopefully, she believes that this will increase the tax base. But it means that the Japanese central bank also probably, because Japanese central bank is not as independent as the American Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is not all that independent either, but Japanese central bank is even less independent than the Federal Reserve. So it looks like Japan is going to be lowering its rates as well, even though they have had a trouble with deflation for many years, and just now finally getting to the point where they have been able to come up on the upside and have some inflation, which they have been trying hard to do. So so investors are saying that, oh, now the global money supply is going to be increasing. Also, central banks around the world seem to be basically giving up on the idea of holding inflation to a 2% target. They say, okay, well, 3%. And the whole thing about 2% originally, like I said, this is kind of like the 6 feet rule during the COVID thing, right? Where'd that come from? I think Fauci finally admitted at one point. I don't know, just someone at one point said 6 feet. That sounded good, so he just said 6 feet. So similar with the 2%, there's really no sound economic basis for 2%. Why not 1.5%? Why not 2.5%? Why not 3%? Um, so so there was no sort of a real hard and fast basis for that in the first place. But now central banks around the world are saying, okay, well, maybe, all right, maybe 3%. All right. So that looks like inflation is going to be around for the foreseeable future. And and when that happens, then asset prices go up, commodities go up, and the problem, of course, is do wages go up to keep up with that? That's the problem, and probably not. Probably the people who own stocks, people who deal in commodities, they will make a lot of money. And people who are paid wages will be having more and more difficulty because even if the wages go up, they only go up after prices have gone up, maybe 6 months or a year after prices have gone up. Then the boss will say, okay, well, inflation was up 3% this year, so now we can raise your salary by 3%. But the prices already went up 3% over the past year, and now you're going to raise my wages 3%. Well, why not compensate me for no, it doesn't work that way, right? So yeah, it's going to get tough. Going to get tough, unfortunately. So what do you need to do? Not financial advice, not financial advice, but I think common sense, just common sense would say that you need to have your money your savings, if you have any savings, and something that is going to be um, growing in value at a rate higher than the inflation rate, so that you can have some actual real growth, not negative growth, right? Because inflation is a tax on the savings of the middle class, and we don't want to pay that tax, do we? No, we don't. Okay. All right. So it looks like so I'm just looking at these numbers here. Let me see if I can show you. I'm just looking at these numbers here on tradingeconomics.com. Uh, Gold here at $4,032 an ounce. Silver $48 an ounce. Looks like it may be approaching 50. And then you can see oil, crude oil. This is the U.S. West Texas Intermediate, up 1.37%. Brent is basically the standard outside the U.S., up 1.25%. So forth. It looks like everything. Wheat is down, steel is down, but most everything else is up. And the foreign exchange, the DXY, that's the dollar index, 98.824, Korean won at 14.25. So the dollar is now buying more Korean won than it used to. And it's also now buying 152 yen. So it's also getting stronger against the yen. And the New Zealand dollar is buying less of the dollar. So the dollar is gaining strength against all these currencies as well, the euro and so forth. So some interesting changes right now going on in the financial markets, which we need to pay attention to because they affect us whether we like it or not. And here the headline is gold tops $4,000. Yeah. And that is the all-time high. Investors sought safe haven assets amid mounting concerns over the U.S. government shutdown, geopolitical tensions, and broader economic uncertainty. And well, all that means inflation is coming. Okay, inflation is coming. Yes. All right, let's take a look at here. Uh, Interesting. Trump is trying to get back the Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan that Biden gave up so easily. Didn't have to give it up when he withdrew from Afghanistan. Could have kept it, but he decided to give it up, and that was a pretty. Even at the time, it was criticized as a pretty bad decision. And now he's trying to get it back, and Russia and China are both upset because it's a very strategically located base near China, near Russia. Russia warned Tuesday that it would consider any new foreign military presence in Afghanistan or nearby countries categorically unacceptable, delivering the message during a high-level meeting in Moscow that included Afghanistan's Taliban government. The statement came weeks after President Donald Trump said the United States was exploring options to retake Bagram Air Base, the massive military complex abandoned during the chaotic 2021 withdrawal of U.S. and NATO forces. And I believe, by the way, that this was originally built by the Soviet Union. I know they used it. I don't know if it existed before that. Could have been built by the British, I suppose, when they were in charge of Afghanistan. But anyway, it's a very important base there. And because it's important, Russia and China too don't want the U.S. there. At the opening of the international conference, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov praised the Taliban for its efforts to fight Islamic State militants and curb narcotics trafficking, but made clear Moscow's red line against renewed U.S. military involvement in the region. Yeah, once you leave something like that, once you leave, it's hard to get back in. The deployment of military infrastructure of any third countries on the territory of Afghanistan, as well as on the territories of neighboring states, is categorically unacceptable under any pretext, Lavrov said. He warned that any extra regional military presence, who would that be, right? Someone from outside the region, well, obviously the United States, would only bring new instability, adding that Afghanistan's history should have taught everyone the right lessons long ago. Newsweek has reached out to the State Department via email on Tuesday afternoon for comment. Russia's position reflects deep sensitivity shaped by its own history in Afghanistan. The former Soviet Union fought a decade-long war there before withdrawing its troops in 1989, a conflict that left tens of thousands, that left tens of thousands dead and contributed to the USSR's eventual collapse. Since the Taliban's return to power in August 2021, Moscow has sought to strengthen ties with Kabul while asserting itself as a key power broker in Central Asia. In July, Russia became the first country to formally recognize the Taliban government, removing it from its list of banned organizations. At Tuesday's talks, Lavrov said Moscow wanted to expand business and energy cooperation with Afghanistan and deepen joint efforts against terrorism and drug trafficking. He also condemned Western sanctions and the ongoing freeze of Afghanistan's foreign assets, calling those measures hostile and counterproductive. Okay, so forth and so on. Okay. If Afghanistan doesn't give Bagram Air Base back to those who built it, actually, I think the Soviet Union built it. Let's check that. What country? Built the Bagram Air Base. Yeah, originally built by the Soviet Union, Soviet period in the 1950s. Yeah, so 1950s, right? At the time when the United States, yeah. So it was originally built by the Soviet Union. Yeah. There's two runways with the main one capable of handling large military aircraft. Right. Okay. So, yeah, President Trump maybe want to rephrase that a bit. Bad things are going to happen, right? Of course, the Americans, I'm sure, expanded it, but it was originally built by the Soviet Union. That was my understanding all along. Okay. All right. Uh, okay, I think maybe we can stop there today, and we'll pick up there tomorrow, and then also next week, next Wednesday, I'll have a new um, speech of fathers that we can go through. All right. All right. So for today, let's say goodbye. God bless. Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.